Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. I forgot the music. Where's the music? I need to organize this stuff. Something went wrong. Uh-oh, did I lose Wi-Fi? No, I didn't. I'm much too cool to lose Wi-Fi. Yeah! Where's OBS? This is so chaotic. I did this so last minute. Hey, guys! It's your gal, Juliberry. And this is all about Tumbo Thursday Real. Ah! Hi, Eris. Hi, Violent. Hi, Teal. Oh my gosh, I feel bad. Is Kat gonna be here? Is Kat gonna be here? Hi, chat. How are we? I need to update that. I need to update this. I'm too lazy. I'm gonna be gone this weekend anyway. Anyways, if you catch me in Disney World, don't be afraid to say hi. I'll be vlogging. Want to ping Cat in the disc? I guess. Everyone's gonna get the ping in a bit, so we're just gonna wait for everyone to turn it. My hair looks so whack-a-daddle-do. Where's Technoblade? Don't worry, guys. He's there. He's there, guys. I've been missing Juliberry streams. You could never miss. I mean, it's okay if you miss. That's why the VODs channel is there. You're totally chillin'. You're chillin'. Yeah, see, everyone gets the ping. Anyways, at Cat. This one's for you, bestie. Fortunately, if I missed part of the stream, I'll be here from the start to the end. Hopefully, we can wrap this up soon because I'm hosting a party in like an hour and 30 minutes. You watched a VOD this morning? Oh, 7 boys. It's okay if Kat can't make it. That's why we have the VODs channel. Yo, we at it again with SBI. Yes, we're gonna finish reading. We're gonna finish reading Full Throttle, and I have it open. I have it open right here. 7 and 8. Chapters 7 and 8, baby. Let's go. Because then that'll be it. That will be it. And then we'll think of something else to do with SBI Sunday. What, the muffin? Probably since I'll be there for Christmas. Okay. I have to give Danny my parents' address now. I just sent her package in the mail. You said car crash trauma? What? I must go try to be for the stream. No worries, Violent. You're good. Great. Oh, I can't type. Boom. I'm a genius. But yeah, Danny and I are sending each other Christmas gifts. Y'all already know some of Danny's Christmas gifts already, because I showed it on stream while she wasn't here. Is she here? No. Okay. Well, we can get started. Kat wrote it. Kat knows what happens. Friday I was in a wreck, but I'm good. I even stole the car handle from the car. Teal. What the muffin, bro? You absolute mad lad. You mad dasher. Look at you go. Alright. I got my water. I'm ready to, like, jump into it. I have a lot of energy. I've been riding my bike around all day. So I'm like... Oh, wait. I need the lore music. Yo, what's going on, Geneva? Welcome to the stream. Angst. It's angst time. Let's go, boys. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for Avatar 2. I really hope my family can see it before we leave, but if not, Teal said, I ran into a tree. I get a souvenir. You ran into a tree? Boy, what the hell? You're fine. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're okay. Okay. This chapter is kind of intense. So, I mean, personally, I like it. It's pretty good. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. Okay. Full throttle. We're just jumping right into it. We're only 6 minutes in. Has the notification even gone out? Hi, Rune. We're reading fan fiction. Thank you, Julie. That tree was not, though, because I'm the biggest of men. So true. So true. What the muffin? You are the biggest of men. Alright. I think my Wi-Fi kind of died for a second there, but I think we're good now. Hi, Rune. How are you doing? Woo. So will we read the Phoenix next, or does Emmy need more time? Oh, the chapter's out. I'm just going to be gone on winter break. So what I'm going to do in return, I'm going to edit all those Golden Phoenix YouTube videos and then post them finally. Because I'm going to use this break to work on some YouTube content. So I'm going to be posting a Jackbox video with the E's. I'm going to be updating the Golden Phoenix. I have like 4 videos that need to come out. And so that will come out over the period of my winter break. So there will be no streams. I'm so sorry, but I will be back in January. Okay? And I'm going to try and work on some TikToks as well as writing. Danny and I are going to use the break to write Pinkman. We might get chapter 5 out in a couple weeks, and then maybe heck we'll work on chapter 6 as well. But yes, we are on chapter 7 of Full Throttle by Your Eyes Look Like the Ocean, our beloved cat Ocean. Let's see. Ooh, I like your Venom AU, Teal. That's pretty epic. I'm a fan personally. But we're gonna just jump right into this because I feel like this one's pretty, yeah. Okay, here we go. Chapter 7. Tommy Innes. He's one of the younger rookies on the track. Tommy's attention snaps back to the computer screen. On it, a video of himself is playing. The camera focused in on his car as it zips around George Founders, heading toward Sapnap. It only takes him a second to realize where the video is being taken from. Shit. This is Auto Club Speedway. This is his big wreck. Content warnings, car wreck, and aftermath. But you probably already knew that because this is a racing fic where he crashes and loses his hearing or becomes hard of hearing. I got Minecraft cereal for Christmas, guys. How awesome is that? Anyways, so lore recap. Last thing that happened, Wilbur took him like to the beach and stuff, and like he almost drowned, and he's like, oh my gosh, you couldn't hear. And then they start laughing, and they start like, oh my gosh, they're becoming besties. And then yeah, he placed 4th in qualifying, so that's where he's gonna like be when he races the actual race this coming weekend. So yeah, let's get into it. I feel like we're gonna get to the big race today, chat. We're gonna get to the big race. I'm so excited. The next morning, Tommy blinks bleary eyes open to find Tubbo's bed is already empty. His blankets sprawled out in wrinkled lumps and pillow half toppled to the floor. He must have left for the garage then. Sun is streaming in through the blinds behind Tommy's head, creating a gold-striped pattern across his bed sheets as he yawns and pushes himself up. First, as the routine has become, he reaches over and rattles the blinds next to his left ear. He can hear them move, but it has the effect of coming up from underwater with one ear clogged. The noise sounds muffled and distorted, though not entirely incomprehensible, and Tommy sighs. It's not coming back. He'd already been told that by the doctors, but now it's real. It's never going to get better than this. Rubbing the sleep from his eyes with one hand, he uses the other to grapple around the nightstand until he finds his hearing aid and plugs it in. He's taken to only using the left one, since the doctors told him his right was pretty much healed. He presses it in, then slides out of bed and enters the kitchen area of the mobile home. As he expected, no one's there. Tubbo's probably out at the garage, and Phil and Techno are doubtlessly still at their hotel. The race isn't until tomorrow, so there isn't much to do today besides a bit of last-minute training, final adjustments on the car, and making sure everything's prepared. Tommy stands in the middle of the silent trailer and sways. He's exhausted. It'd taken him hours to fall asleep last night, and his eyes are burning in retribution. But his limbs are already starting to jitter in anticipation of tomorrow. And he knows if he tries to go back to sleep now, he's just going to wind up in the same anxious wreck of a predicament. So he doesn't. He gets dressed, grabs a protein bar from the pantry, jams on a pair of red muddy Converse. And slips out the door. There's a coffee shop not far from the track. He saw it when they drove to the beach 3 days ago in Purple's death machine, but hadn't found a chance to go yet. He locks the trailer door behind him and decides to walk. It's not hot in Florida yet, which is a blessing. Chilly air stings his cheeks and nose as he trudges across the empty track and out through the entrance tunnel. From there, he rounds the side of the stands to get back on the main sidewalks, crosses the pedestrian bridge in front of the speedway, and treks a block and a half to the coffee shop's front door. Warm air and the smell of ground cinnamon and espresso greet him when he steps inside. The shop is small but homely. Wooden tables and chairs are set in tightly knit rows on top of creaking floorboards. String lights dangle from the ceiling, glass bulbs old enough that the heat still has started to blacken their centers. There's a bookshelf of plants and mugs at the back of the shop, hanging vines and spiky succulents organized in a neat line across the top shelf, while multicolored mugs and tiny trinkets crowd the remaining space. There's a trellisized? What is this word? Trellised. Oh, there's a trellised separator that divides what is this? I don't know what this is. Hold on. I'm looking up the word.
Trellised.
I was right the first time. There's a trellis separator that divides the cafe in half, creating a secluded space where people can go to get away from the early morning rush. After ordering, Tommy heads there to sit. He rounds the corner, caramel latte in hand, and is about to start popping open the straw when he meets a pair of familiar brown eyes. Wilbur Soot, crammed into the corner of a booth and hunchbacked over an open laptop, steaming cup of coffee half raised to his lips, rolls his eyes dramatically. "You're like a shadow I can't get rid of," he grumbles, but reorganizes his stuff to make room as Tommy steps further into the space. "What are you doing here?" Despite the invitation, Tommy doesn't sit. "Getting coffee. What do you think?" "I don't know. Stalking me, perhaps? Who else drinks caffeine right before race day?" "Why wouldn't you drink caffeine right before race day?" Wilbur leans back from his laptop, giving Tommy his full attention. "It's a stressor, number one. You don't drink caffeine when you need to stay calm. And number two, it makes you shit." "Gross, Wilbur," Tommy whines, dropping his latte to his side. "That's TMI." "Whoa, it's true. Science has literally proven it. "You're disgusting." "You're a child." "That literally has nothing to do with this conversation, and I have no clue why you've decided to bring it up. It's not even factually true. It's just rude, really." Wilbur snorts. He pats the seat beside him again and scoots further into the corner. "Come sit. You look like you're about to drop dead and be pricked apart by vultures." A spluttered, surprised laugh escapes from Tommy's mouth. But he walks over to the booth and slides in beside Wilbur anyway. As he scoots in, he gets a good look at Wilbur's laptop screen. It's paused on a video of Daytona Speedway. Jay Schlatt's bright yellow car tearing down the track at turn 3. The closed caption reads, "He's going for the win! He's going for the win!" "Daytona, 2007, Wilbur explains, unpausing the video. Both he and Tommy watch as Schlatt zips through the finish line, and the stands go wild. "It's the one where Schlatt took a turn in half a second," Tommy finishes, not tearing his eyes off the video. "I know. I've seen this clip 100 times. I'd bet, considering you tried for the same turn yesterday night. Do you know how risky that was? You lose control for a millisecond in that turn and that's it. You're toast. Tommy frowns, sinking back into the booth and bringing his coffee to his chest. Listen, I didn't come here so you could repeat your whole spiel to me about how I'm not ready or play too risky or whatever bullshit you've got planned today. No, Tommy, I'm not. The turn was good. Tommy, midway through opening his mouth to continue defending himself, freezes. Huh? The turn? Was that your first time trying it? He shifts uncomfortably, face heating as he tries to figure out what trick Wilbur's playing here, because he must be setting him up somehow. There's no way Wilbur Sood just complimented him. It was my second time, actually. I did it once, with my old chief, before I was with NASCAR. Still, for your second time, that was impressive. A little wobbly, but you stuck it well, and barely had to lose any speed. Tommy, still waiting for the other shoe to drop, nods his head and takes a sip of his latte. What the hell is happening? There's no way Wilbur is being nice to him. Wilbur seems to notice his hesitation, because he stops talking and clicks the next video instead. He has them all set up in a playlist, Tommy realizes. They're not in any sort of order, but most of the clips are short, around a minute long, and all of them feature some of Tommy's favorite racers. Jay Schlatt, Vicstar, KSI, before he quit to pursue wrestling. There are others he recognizes, but those are the big ones. The video Wilbur plays is of Vic, running his final lap around Daytona during the Xfinity series a couple years ago. Tommy's seen that one before too. He knows that the slingshot pass Vic made just before crossing the finish line was one of the cleanest, most well-executed maneuvers in racing history. Or maybe that's just Tommy's own opinion. Still, it was impressive enough to be clipped and posted to the internet hundreds of times. I like Vic, he finds himself saying aloud, leaning closer to Wilbur so he can read the captions on screen. He's one of the people who made me want to race professionally. He's talented, that's for sure, Wilbur agrees, bobbing his head as the video ends and YouTube automatically continues down his playlist. I wish he'd stuck around America a little longer, but I guess racing in Europe is cool too. Didn't you race with him once? Wilbur nods. A couple times. We were in the Xfinity series together, and then the Cup. I think that series was his last race in America, actually. He quit and moved back to England right after it ended. Why'd he leave? The press never said. Wilbur shrugs. Dunno. I guess he just missed home, you know. Plus, there was a lot of pressure on him to do well with NASCAR, and I think he needed a break from that. I don't know. I wasn't really around for that. Oh. Hi, Pepper. What's happening? We're reading chapter 7. Tommy and Wilbur are chilling out in a coffee shop together, watching old racing YouTube clips. Tommy's waiting for Wilbur to insult him, but he's not. He's being nice. So, Crime Boys is happening. Oh. Tommy sinks back into the booth and draws his arm tight around his center. He knows what happened during that cup, and how Wilbur had been knocked out of commission. Everyone does. Wilbur, for his part, doesn't mention it. He scrolls down through the list and finds a new video, one of Nikki Niachu's fastest running Daytona laps. Oh. I'm in the car, my Wi-Fi isn't working. L. Some L's in chat for Pepper. One of Nikki Niachu's fastest running Daytona laps, and lets it play in silence while they both sip their drinks. Unlike the rest of the races they'd been watching, Nikki's still around. She'd been at qualifying yesterday, made it to the top 10, and secured her lineup spot for the race tomorrow. She came in 5th, right behind Tommy's time. He'd seen her afterward, celebrating with her team on the way out of the pits. She looked happy, her eyes sparkling and pink pigtails bobbing as she rambled excitedly to an interviewer. He'd wanted so badly to be excited as she was, but something in the back of his brain kept holding him back, telling him he could have done better. No matter how hard he tried to tell himself he knew better, and that this was good enough, there was some little part of him that still couldn't believe it, even after all these months. So, have you learned any more sign? Wilbur asks. And it's so out of the blue that Tommy nearly chokes on his coffee. Some, he coughs out, setting the cup down. Mostly swears. Of course, Wilbur snorts. He turns away from the computer, giving Tommy his full attention. Go on. Show me some. Tommy thinks for a moment, then raises his hand to his forehead in a B sign. Bastard. A classic. Wilbur smirks, and Tommy moves the B sign to his chin instead. Bitch. Wilbur laughs. You're such a child. Like, I know it's a joke at this point, but seriously, do you know anything besides swear words? Or besides swears? Tommy shrugs, lowering his hand.
I don't really need to now, do I? I know the alphabet, basic phrases, some foods.
He makes 2 fists, stacks them on top of each other, and circles the top one around like he's stirring. Stirring. Coffee, Wilbur interprets, and Tommy nods. Wilbur raises his hands and slices them through a full phrase. Tommy follows along. Hot. Coffee. Better. Cold. Coffee. Bad. Tommy makes a face, scooting his iced coffee away from Wilbur. And Wilbur grins before pointing at him as if to say, go on. Your turn. Tommy fumbles with his hands, trying to figure out a set of signs he knows.
You big baby. I like cold coffee.
Wilbur beams and launches into a new set. Tommy can't understand. Trin ate my dog? Oh my god, thank you for the follow, but why would you eat my dog? He did nothing to you. Welcome to the stream. Trin, is that like your alt account or something? Oh my gosh. Wilbur beams and launches into a new set. Tommy can't understand every word, but he gets the gist. It's too cold outside for that.
No.
He signs back instantly, easy and simple, and Wilbur chokes on his laughter.
What?
Tommy asks, a hesitant grin cracking over his face as Wilbur bends over the table and wheezes. What'd I do wrong? Nothing. Wilbur splutters and out between giggles. You just made a facial expression that was, and it was like, I could hear you saying it.
No.
All Tommy-like.
All Tommy-like?
Tommy cocks his head as the implications of Wilbur's words seep in. Tommy-like. Like Tommy. Wilbur's observed him enough to know how he speaks. Most of the time, that would make him uncomfortable. Ever since his last chief, people getting too close make him nervous. He doesn't want them to get inside his head and find out what's buried there, what a mess he actually is. What a failure. But the way Wilbur says it, Tommy-like, is so warm and genuine. If Tommy didn't know any better, he'd almost say Wilbur was being affectionate. You know what I mean, Wilbur says, taking a deep breath to quell his giggles. Like, you get this really deep rumbling start and then you just...
No.
Like that.
Are you mocking me, bitch?
Another laugh spurts from Wilbur's mouth. No, I'm just telling you that's how you sound.
No.
Yeah, like that. Tommy rolls his eyes, but the smile doesn't leave his face. He leans back against the booth, giving up on his coffee for now as the next video on Wilbur's list starts playing. It's of Hannah Rose, another driver he'd seen on track yesterday. He doesn't know much about her, but she seemed nice. She'd waved to him when he passed her car in the garage. He pulls his knees up and rests his chin on top of his jeans, trying not to look as tired as he feels. The coffee still hasn't kicked in, and the shop is so warm it's making him drowsy. He's pretty sure if he laid down on the booth right there, or right here, he'd fall asleep.
Why do you know so much sign, Wilbur?
He asks in an attempt to keep himself awake until the caffeine kicks in.
I mean, you have an aide, and you said yourself that you can read lip, so...
Wilbur shrugs. On screen, Hannah Rose rounds turn 2 of the Daytona Speedway, then presses her foot to the gas. Her hot pink car hums as it whips past the cameraman. Control, Wilbur finally says, keeping his eyes on the screen. You signed for control. When I woke up in the hospital and couldn't hear, I'd never felt that out of control in my life. He swallows, voice lowering, and Tommy subconsciously scoots closer to hear him better. I don't know how much the media's told everyone, even after 5 years. I still don't check my socials, but for the first 3 days after I woke up, I couldn't hear at all. Like, nothing. It's Smile, thanks so much for the follow. Hannah crosses the finish line, and the announcers burst into a flurry of discussion. Captions flying left and right. Tommy catches a few key words: steady drive, using the throttle, got out of the drag. But for the most part, he ignores it in favor of listening to Wilbur. That was hard, Wilbur admits. And Tommy squeezes his own hands into fists under the table until he's sure there are crescent-shaped indents on his palms. And it was really hard because I couldn't do anything about it. We found a couple days later that the car model had some massive safety issues, which was why it had gotten so hurt. It's not like I could go back in time and fix it, though. I was stuck like that. My ears weren't working, and my lungs still needed healing. And I was stuck in a bed for an indefinite amount of time. My body hated me. I couldn't do anything without being in pain. I thought my career was over. So I took back control the way I could. The one way I could. I started learning ASL. Hannah's video freezes. YouTube fighting with the shitty cafe Wi-Fi. Tommy rests his cheek on his knees, turning to look at Wilbur. I'm sorry, he whispers, not really knowing what else to say. Wilbur's right. It's hard because he can't do anything about it. It's too late to go back and change things. Instead, all he can do is sit here in silence and offer a pitifully shitty condolence. It feels crappy, mostly because he knows exactly how Wilbur felt. He knows how scary it is to wake up and realize your body decided to shut something off while you were asleep, without notice, without ever consulting the rest of you. It feels like losing control of the steering wheel during a turn. His hands loosen for just a split second, and the wheel flies right no matter how hard he tries to pull back. Wilbur doesn't say anything else for a while. He sits in thick silence, flicking through video after video as Tommy's eyelids grow heavier. The caffeine really isn't doing much for him, but he also hasn't touched his drink since Wilbur started talking. It feels wrong somehow to do anything other than sit in the pocket of silence they created. Finally, just as Tommy's eyes are about to slip closed, Wilbur speaks again. How'd you do it so quickly? Tommy hums from where his face is pressed to his knees. Do what so quickly? Recover. I mean, you wrecked at Auto Club, and then 2 weeks later you were in Daytona. I don't get it. Isn't it hard?
Mm-hmm. Of course it's hard.
Then how? Tommy sighs. This is the hard question, because he doesn't know how to answer it in a way Wilbur expects. He could explain his old chief, and how he never would have let him take time off. How he'd trained Tommy into coming in sick with fevers and the flu, and how partial hearing loss was minor in comparison to nearly passing out over the wheel. But that feels like a little much, and Tommy doesn't think that's the only reason he came back anyway. He could say it was to prove his old coach wrong, which is also partially true. He could say it was because he didn't want to lose his new team, and wanted to make up for the race he'd lost them. But there's more to it than that. It's a multi-sided puzzle. There's one thing every side has in common, though. Control, Tommy says, and Wilbur's eyes widen in understanding.
I came back because when everything is out of control, this is the one thing that's been constant in my life.
Why did I go Australian for a second there?
My life. It's the one thing that's been constant in my life. I love racing. I love driving. Behind the wheel is the one place I feel like my life is mine. Because a chief and spotter can yell directions at you all they want, but that's your cockpit, your wheel, your throttle. You're the only one who can decide when to press it.
He takes a breath, letting his cheek sink further into his knee as Wilbur watches him, then finishes.
I wanted this. I wanted this since I was 4 years old. I never get the things I want. But I had this in arm's grasp, so I'd be stupid not to reach out and take it, you know.
Wilbur hums, and for a moment it's silent again. Tommy struggles to keep himself awake as china cups and mugs clink in the dining room behind them, and as someone in the kitchen calls out, "Caramel frappe for Kit?" You're not, take two. You're not so bad once you get past the only using ASL to insult me and the whole child thing, Wilbur observes. Tired as he feels, Tommy manages a roll of his eyes and a snort before pressing his forehead back to his knees.
Ow. Thanks.
No, I mean, okay, I was joking then. I just meant You're cool, Tommy. You're a good driver.
Ah, so now you only like me for my sick driving skills.
Jesus Christ, remind me to never compliment a child again.
Remind me not to talk to dickheads.
Wilbur elbows him in the shoulder, and Tommy's resulting laugh is startlingly loud for the quiet cafe. He buries his face further into his knees to hide it, snickering until the tiredness takes over again and leaves him drained. He sinks into the booth, about to close his eyes for the third time when Wilbur shifts and something falls over his back. He blinks, peeling his forehead off his knees, and finds a second coat draped over his back. Wilbur's coat. Should go home. Go to sleep, Wilbur says quietly. He's gone back to staring at his laptop, but he's not watching videos anymore. Instead, a game of Tetris is loading on the screen.
Trying to get rid of me?
No, I'm just saying, you look exhausted.
I think I'm gonna stay right here. Annoy you by snoring and shit.
Wilbur huffs a laugh, and Tommy cracks a tiny smile before closing his eyes again. This time they don't open until hours later, when Wilbur shakes him awake to go back to the track. He blinks open his eyes to find his cheek pressed into Wilbur's arm, the rest of him leaned up against his side, but doesn't remember to ask how he got there until he's already back in his trailer alone. Tubbo must still be at the garage, and Techno and Phil aren't there either, so Tommy makes himself a microwave lunch while booting up his laptop. He'd memorized Wilbur's playlist name while still at the cafe. Hitting the Tracks. Random racing review footage curated by Wilbur Soot, all properly capitalized like the pompous prick Wilbur is, and types it into YouTube as soon as the home screen loads, then sits with his steaming plate of rice and peas and clicks on one of the videos they hadn't watched. It's Nikki again, whizzing around the dirt track Bristol Motor Speedway. She's good, leaving a cloud of dust in her wake as she takes turn 2 with speed rivaling Schlatt's, who's just ahead of her. Tommy zones out, watching her wheels spin as the announcers blabber on about wind speeds and rain, a storm that must be rolling in as the race continues. He hopes it doesn't storm before their race tomorrow. It doesn't look like it will, but the last thing Tommy wants to deal with on possibly the biggest day of his life is a slippery track. Rain dredges up all the old oil sunk into the asphalt, spreading it in a thin layer over the top, and makes the speedway even more hazardous than it usually is. He can't even count the number of accidents he'd watched occur live on TV just because the track was a little wet. Tommy Innes, he's one of the younger rookies on the track. Tommy's attention snaps back to the computer screen. On it, a video of himself is playing. The camera focused in on his car as it zips around George Founders, heading towards Sapnap. It only takes him a second to realize where the video's being taken from. Shit. This is Auto Club Speedway. This is his big wreck. He thinks about hitting pause, about skipping to the next video, but his body feels paralyzed, limbs frozen in place like a bug trapped in sticky amber. He can't get his hands to move to the keys. I think he's aiming to pass number 2. Ted Nivison says, almost in disbelief, and in the background a chair squeaks like someone's leaning forward. That's a pretty risky move for a rookie. No kidding, Schlatt chimes in. Sapnap's brutal, man. I've raced with him before, and I can tell you, he's going to cling to that position if it kills him. Well, Innes is approaching. He's going to attempt to pass, Ted narrates. I'm surprised it's not a slingshot considering how good he is at those. He's going to pass on a corner? Schlatt interrupts, and Tommy winces as his car drifts closer and closer to Sapnap's. There, that exact moment was when Phil had told him to hang back, not to pass. He hadn't listened. Clementine pulls up right beside Sapnap, so close that their sides could have brushed. And then they do. Sapnap pulls right a little, trying to intimidate Tommy into pulling back, but Tommy doesn't budge. He sticks his ground like he'd always been taught to, and Sapnap's car nudges against Clementine. If they hadn't been driving at over 100 miles per hour, the collision wouldn't have been so bad. It would have been a fender bender or an accident so small that only a scratch or tiny dent would be left to prove it had happened. Instead, the slight change in force and airflow sends Tommy's car careening right like a semi-truck had run straight into it. Tommy feels the blood drain from his face as he watches himself go flying across the track. Hit once by a car that didn't have time to dodge, George's, and then skidding again until his back bumper slams into the wall. The third hit comes just a second later from number 17, who hadn't seen Tommy's car until it was too late. Their car slams into Clementine's side with a sickening crunch, swinging her forward until her entire right side is pressed against the barrier wall. Then, and only then, does the wreckage stop. There's far too much time between the last thing Tommy remembers, that third hit, and the next thing he can recall, Puffy kneeling outside his car. It takes a good few minutes for the emergency vehicles to make it out there, and by then, all the other drivers had made it out of the wrecked cars and off the track. He's the only one who hasn't walked it off yet. Or, he's the only one who hasn't walked it off. Yeah. Tommy watches in stunned silence as Puffy darts over to his car and wrenches the netting down. He remembers that. He remembers her yelling, too, which he can see as she calls back over her shoulder to the ambulance. "Oh, shit," Schlatt mutters, forgetting to censor himself. We're looking at number 9's car here," Ted says. "It's pretty banged up. Innes has yet to exit the vehicle." 2 more emergency responders join Puffy at the window and help hoist Tommy through it before 4 more workers bring a stretcher. It's weird, Tommy thinks, to watch himself be moved around like a doll. His concussion must have been worse than Sam let on, because as soon as his legs hit the ground, he's stumbling. And Puffy has to hold him up until they can get him on the gurney. The crowd cheers as soon as he comes into view, relief sweeping through the stands, but Tommy doesn't remember any of that. Innes has exited the car, Ted breathes, and then, "Still can't believe he went for that pass. Playing with sapnap is like playing with gasoline, and you're a lit match. It's disaster waiting to happen." Innes always plays it risky, but I don't think he knows any better. He's a kid, man. Just barely turned 18 before signing. Schlatt's voice tappers off as Tommy on screen's knees shake. One of his gloved hands flies to his face, head ducking down, and Tommy off screen comes to a horrible realization. He had been crying when they pulled him out of Clementine, loaded him into the gurney, and wheeled him away. That whole time he'd been sobbing, and he doesn't remember it. He didn't even notice it in the moment, but there, clear as day, when Puffy and 2 other medical assistants help lift him onto the stretcher, are shimmering tear tracks making their way down his pale, shell-shocked face. They place him in the ambulance, and the doors close behind them, and then the clip cuts off. It doesn't matter. Tommy knows what happened after that. As if the video ending is the end of his curse, his limbs finally unstick from where they'd been frozen. His hand flies to press the power button on his computer, hard shutting it down before slamming the lid and pushing it away from him. His chair screeches against the floor when he pushes back and abruptly stands, swaying on his feet before turning and making his way to the bedroom. Holy shit. He'd never seen that footage before. Phil never let him see the news reports, and the very limited amounts of media he'd come across online were all photos or people tweeting their thoughts about the wreck. He'd never actually seen his collision from the outside, never seen the sickening force with which the 2 other cars slammed into him, never seen the aftermath of himself being extracted from Clementine, dazed and shaking, and never noticed he'd been crying the whole time. Tommy sinks down onto the edge of his bed, bile in his throat. He'd messed up. He'd messed up so badly. What if it happens again? What if he wrecks? What if Wilbur was right? The first time I drove on a crowded freeway after my wreck, I had to pull over to have a panic attack. Tommy feels the telltale tightening of his lungs and squeezes his eyes shut. No, he's a good driver. He won't be a hazard, as Wilbur had called him. He'd gone through both practice and qualifying and been fine. Of course, there hadn't been many cars on the track for the divided practice sessions, and qualifying was single car, single lap, but he'd been fine. He was never worried about this before, so why are his eyes stinging now? Subconsciously, Tommy reaches up and runs a finger over the back of his hearing aid. The race is tomorrow. He doesn't have time to question himself. He needs to practice or meet up with Phil and Techno to talk strategy, or find Tubbo in the garage and see how Clementine's running. Instead, he sits on the bed, frozen in place with a hand to his aid. End of chapter 7. Oh my god. Oh my god! That's pretty intense, isn't it? That's pretty poggers. Cat can't make it. Tis alright, love. We got VODs. Alright. Sorry, just catching up on DMs and stuff. Alright. I could listen to you read for hours. Your voice is so calming. Thank you. I can't believe this is the last chapter. What do you think's gonna happen, chat? What do you think's gonna happen? Think Tommy's gonna win? Think Tommy's gonna win? You're gonna leave right before the last chapter, Teal. I can't believe this. You're okay. Go do your thing. Go be responsible and stuff. But I'll just watch the VOD. Bye. Bye, Teal. I'm getting emails from Domino's. Oh, slay. What did I do? Oh, I accidentally closed the tab. Tommy is going to win or crash. Really? You think he's gonna crash again? Oh my gosh, that's brutal. Emmy sent me. I have to go adult. I apologize. Yeah, you're fine. All right. Let's go. Full Throttle, Chapter 8. Our final chapter. It feels like giving in. It feels like failure. The paint he'd been working so hard to peel back reseals itself over his skin as he rolls down pit road and parks at his designated box. Instantly, Phil is at his window. What's wrong? What happened? Your levels look fine. What broke? Tommy holds back for approximately 2 seconds before bursting into tears. Content warning. Anxiety/panic attack plus emetophobia. So, take care of yourself. You need to step away. You're valid. Mwah. Love y'all. Sunday is by far the busiest day of Tommy's life. He wakes up at 6, slips out to run with Purple and Foolish, mostly because they invited him, but also a little because he needs to burn off the anxious energy that hadn't left him since yesterday afternoon, and comes back at 7 to find Tubbo just crawling out of bed. They make breakfast together in the kitchen, Tubbo on eggs and Tommy on oatmeal, and eat outside as the sun starts to rise. Hi, Witchy. Hello. We're reading. 15 minutes later, they're outside the garages. There are a lot of cars there. A lot. As Tommy scans down the line, he feels something in his stomach flip when he spots number 17 and George's car, number 4, lined up side by side. They look nothing like they did on the recording yesterday. No bumps or scratches, not a single indication of what had happened during the last race they ran. Tommy swallows and moves on. From then on, Tommy's whisked from one activity to the next. First, it's the car, checking it out with Tubbo and making sure everything's running smoothly. They meet up with the rest of the crew, and Tommy listens from the sidelines as they go over pit stop protocol. He goes to a couple interviews and waves hi to Nikki and talks to Purple and Amesy. If I puke in the car, do I have to keep driving? Amesy asks, jittering up and down in the middle of the garages. Nah, just lean out the window. It'll be the next car's problem, Purple says, startling a laugh out of the both of them. Tommy leaves that conversation feeling slightly better, a little of his nervousness washed away. Then he runs into Wilbur, and all the words he'd been fretting over last night flood back. No rush. I'm streaming last chapter. reading at the moment. Then runs into Wilbur, and all the words he'd been fretting over last night flood back. Had to pull over to have a panic attack. Hazards. You're going to freak out. What happens when you freeze up halfway through a lap, take one too quick turn, and smash into someone else? You're a rookie, kid. What fic is this? It's called Full Throttle. Here's the link. It's so good. I love it so much. Why am I getting notifications from Epic Games? But it's crime boys oriented racing fic. Tommy Rex, he becomes hard of hearing. Wilbur's like slightly deaf, but he's also a racer, and it's such a good fic. I have all the other readings. This is the last chapter, but I have all the other readings on my VODs channel if you want to listen to those. Yeah, since I'm not going to be here on Sunday, we're doing instead of SBI Sunday, it's SBI Thursday. I left for a second to look at the Venom menu, then accidentally started brainstorming for the last 40 minutes as the comics instead of the movies. It makes so much better knowing similar to our hive mind that invades Earth. Oh, that's you know what? Slay rune, slay. All right, I'm gonna keep reading. You guys can talk amongst yourselves and listen if you want. Alongside that rush, his old chiefs. You're just a kid who got lucky. You're just going to fuck it up, Ennis. God, can you do anything right? Ready for today? Wilbur asks, a bright grin splitting his face as the two stop in front of each other.
I guess so,
Tommy says, shrugging. You're gonna have a tough time beating me, I'll warn you. Wilbur sounds completely serious, but Tommy catches the subtle glitter in his eye. Yeah, glitter in his eyes. He's teasing, baiting him into firing back with something equally as confident. Normally he would. He'd say, yeah, watch me, or eat my dust, Wilbur Soot. And Wilbur's grin would widen at the opportunity of a challenge. Today, he feels more like if he opens his mouth, he'll throw up. Before he can decide whether hurling all over Wilbur's shoes is worth the $50 he'd have to pay to replace them, Wilbur's hands lands on his shoulder. His thumb sweeps over his jacket, soft and gentle. And for the first time in years, Tommy doesn't cringe away from the touch. Hey, are you okay? You look a little shaken.
I'm fine,
Tommy mumbles. You throwing yourself back into it so soon isn't just a hazard for yourself, it's a hazard for all of us. Hazard, hazard, hazard. Are you sure? Listen, if you're nervous...
Excuse me,
Tommy says, politely pushing past Wilbur before he can finish. Hey, wait, Tommy, what's wrong? He hears Wilbur call from over his shoulder, but he waves him off, and Wilbur doesn't try to follow and ask again. A couple hours later, he passes Techno in the garage and is offered lunch. He shakes his head.
No thanks.
Come on, it's ham and cheese, your favorite. Techno waves the tinfoil wrapped sandwich enticingly. When Tommy continues to shake his head, blatantly turning his face away from the food, Techno crosses his arms and cocks his head. What's wrong? Whenever Tommy's old chief asked him what was wrong, he never wanted the real answer. He never wanted to hear about the stress headaches and breakdowns, the nausea or shaking hands. He wanted something fake, made up. Like,
nothing, just a bit tired. Or, my head hurts a little, but I'm fine.
This unfair voice is so good. Witchy, thank you. I need to, like, record stuff, and, like, I have, like, a podcast profile set up. I just have to actually, like, buckle down and do it. Because I have started recording, but I haven't touched it in months. It's gonna be hard to work on that over break, because all my stuff is here. Maybe that'll be a goal for 2023. You know what? I'm gonna make that a goal. Do your gosh darn podcast, Juliberry. Get some water. Bing, 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 bong. Goal. Do podcast. Yep. That's it. That's my 2023, y'all. We're do podcasts. All right. Let's do it.
I'm okay.
Tommy says first, because it's what he's been trained to do. Techno levels him with a disbelieving glare and he swallows.
Nervous.
Techno's gaze softens. You're gonna do great, Tommy. It's the first race. Of course you're gonna be nervous.
I don't like it.
You want me to get Phil? He can do those, what do you call them? Breathing exercises or whatever with you. Tommy shakes his head again.
No, it's fine. I'll be fine.
He can see the indecision on Techno's face. His hand absent-mindedly drifts to his hair the way it always does when he's stressed, and he glances back over his shoulder to the pit, where they both know Phil is most likely camping out. There's only about half an hour before the race starts, and it's Phil's job to make sure the entire crew's prepared. Finally, Techno turns back, releasing a breath. Okay, well, just know, I'm gonna be there the whole time with you, okay? Anything you need. Directions, warnings, that's literally my job, but if you need me, I'm here. Tommy nods, and Techno's shoulders slump. He ruffles his hair once, affectionate, then leaves, brushing past the bathrooms at the end of the hall. Tommy waits until Techno disappears around a corner before rushing into the men's room and losing half his breakfast into the nearest toilet. 10-minute warning, he hears as he's washing his face in the sinks, and then he blinks, and he's back in the pits with Phil, doing those stupid breathing exercises anyway. In and out. You're going to do fine, Phil says, smiling warmly as Tommy clings to his hands. You're fourth in the lineup. Are you excited? Tommy chokes on a nervous, half-hysterical laugh.
I guess so.
This is crazy. He can hear the crowd outside the pits. Fuck, he can see them. If he turns his head a little to the right, the sunshine hits him, and there they are. The stands, invigorated with that electric energy Tommy had fallen in love with at 8 years old. He's not amongst them anymore, but he can still feel it, like static cling. You've earned it, Phil says, still beaming and squeezing his hands. You've earned this. No one's ever told him that before. He's not sure he believes it. Hazard, 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 keeps repeating in his head. And he's pretty sure he's made a mistake, actually. He's not supposed to be here, but Tommy swallows around the lump in his throat and squeezes Phil's hands in return. Thanks, Chief. What do we say about that? It's just Phil.
Phil.
Phil winks and squeezes Tommy's hands once more before letting go. Tubbo hands him his helmet. Techno checks the comms, and then Tommy's strapping himself into Clementine and gearing up for a race. What in the... I like this song. Cute. If there's one thing that can calm Tommy down before a race, it's sitting in the cockpit. Clementine wraps snugly around him in a hug, her parts molded specifically for him, and the feel of the steering wheel under his palms is like the feeling of slipping on a favorite sweatshirt. Familiar, comfortable, worn. For the first time since yesterday afternoon, he lets himself breathe and closes his eyes. He's going to do fine. His whole team is counting on him. He can do this. He's done this since he was 8 years old, and really, what's the difference between a go-kart race and NASCAR? Okay, well, a lot, but... Someone taps on Clementine's hood, and Tommy's eyes fly open just in time for Phil's words to filter through his headset. Ready? They're lining up and getting out on the track now. Yeah, Tommy says, gritting his teeth against the way his voice shakes, and reaching for the gear shift.
I'm ready. Let's do this.
He shifts into drive, and the event begins. For a lap, they follow the pacer car around the track. Tommy is fourth, and he slots himself into his lineup position. He can see the way the little white pacer car winks in the sunlight ahead of them. It's holding them back, keeping them hovering at a safe speed of 55. For now. As soon as they run back toward pit road, the little car will disappear down it, and they'll speed through the green flag. How's it looking out there? Lots to see? Techno asks through the comms. and Tommy tears his eyes off the pacer car to look around.
It looks good. Road's clear, no slickness. Clementine's doing good too. Whatever turbo adjusted with the steering is great. Smooth as water.
What the muffin is my father doing? Oh my gosh. I have to share this with you guys. Look what my dad is doing. Sorry to interrupt. He's making a wall of leaves outside our front yard. He's made like a dam. That's so funny. Oh, why is it so bright? See that? Oh my gosh. Shout out to my Papa Berry. Oh. Damn, but with leaves. I know. Who are we trying to keep out? The squirrels? They're just gonna fly through them. Don't question his wisdom. You're so right. He is my dad after all. Never question the one-armed bandit. Fan art pog. Okay. Let's do it.
It's smooth as water. No, Tommy, I mean.
Techno chuckles, and Tommy's heart sinks into his stomach. Had he already not been listening?
The stands.
The stands. Have you looked in the stands? Oh. Tommy raises his eyes from the track and lets his gaze flit over the stands. There's people there. Hundreds of people. The stands are already built to look like as if they have people in them all the time, with the multicolored chairs, but these are real people. Moving, breathing bodies whose cheering he can just barely discern through his helmet. He catches a poster with Wilbur's name on it, and another neon purple sign with Nikki's, and one that comically reads, "Can you Uber me to the airport?" There's a little kid on his dad's shoulders, waving, and Tommy has to fight a grin that as he realizes that's exactly what he had done years ago with his own dad.
That's a lot of people,
he says aloud. Did you see that kid with the bright pink sign? I guess he's sort of closer to the top of the stands, but it's got your name on it.
Pink?
Tommy asks. It's impossible to see the top of the stands from his perspective inside the car, but he leans forward anyway. Yeah, he's got pink hair, too. Probably the one reason I spotted him.
That's Michael,
Tommy says without thinking, then clears his throat.
I think it is. I met him during that one tour we did last week. He likes pink and pigs.
And you, apparently. Tommy flushes. Ahead, the green flag is approaching. He tightens his grip on the wheel and gets ready to push down on the gas. This is it. This is where he takes it all back. The yelling, the two tight hands on his shoulder, the bright red paint still clinging to his side. This is where he makes it up to his new team for all the hassle he put them through after wrecking. This is where he finally proves to himself that he belongs here. That he isn't just some kid who got lucky. He wants this win. He needs this win. He can't settle for anything less. Hey, Phil's voice breaks through just in time for Tommy to watch the pacer car drift off, slipping away down pit road. As expected, everyone starts easing on the gas, picking up speed as they approach the checkered line. Tommy mimics them.
Yeah?
Be careful out there, okay?
I will. I'll bring the car back in one piece this time, Phil, I promise.
I'm not worried about the car. I mean you. The flagman raises the green flag, holding it high in preparation. Tommy grips the wheel and prepares to press the gas down hard. He's in the front lines, for now. He'd like to keep it that way.
Okay.
He responds to Phil, and aligns himself perfectly behind Foolish.
I'll try.
He's not really worried about himself. He's not supposed to be. When he's racing, the only thing he's supposed to worry about is the position to be overtaken. Everything else is a distraction. Irrelevant. Hazard. Hazard, his mind repeats, as if purely to spite him. He shoves it away best he can, which isn't great. There's still a sinking, swirling feeling in his gut, and focuses on the track ahead. It's fine. He's fine. He can do this. The flag waves over Wilbur's head, a flash of summer green in the bright blue sky, and the race begins. Ooh, place your bets. Place your bets. Who do you think's gonna win? Who do you think's gonna win? Is it gonna be Wilbur? Is it gonna be Tommy? Is it gonna be someone else? Woo. Alrighty. Woo. It starts off well. Tommy sticks his place in fourth for a while, following behind Foolish and getting a feel for the course ahead. After the first few laps, people start getting gutsy and passing, and Tommy drifts back a few spots. He's not worried about it, though. Hold on, we're getting a raid. Yo, Mindwipe Live, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome, welcome. How was your stream? What were you doing? Welcome, viewers. Welcome, raiders. My name's Juliberry Live. We're reading SBI fanfiction. And it's the last chapter, so definitely check out my VODs channel. Definitely check out the VODs channel if you want to hear the previous chapters. Oh my gosh, everyone and their mother is texting me right now. I'm so popular. But welcome, welcome. I hope you had a lovely stream, Mindwipe. Alright. He's not worried about it, though. There are 200 laps, and 190 of them are left for him to catch up. He pulls himself back to the front after a while, ducking around Purple and grinning when his friend resigns himself to sliding in behind him. He presses harder on the gas and winds up leading a few laps after that. Leading laps is great, not just because it gives him extra points, but because it feels just like driving. The road ahead is clear, solely his for the taking, and all he has to worry about is the people behind him, the many people behind him. He glances in his rearview camera while leading his first lap and has to swallow back a sudden spike of nausea as he sees the sea of cars trailing him. They're all tightly packed together like cattle. If even one of them turned wrong, shifted a little too much to the right or left, or accidentally pressed too hard on the gas or brake, the resulting wreck would be disastrous. He yanks his eyes back to the road in front of him and ignores the way his lungs squeeze tight, just like they did in the hospital all those weeks ago. Hi there, how's the stream? Just doing some Minecraft grinding. Oh, and thank you for the follow, Mindwipe. The stream is going great. Thank you again for the raid. We're reading some SBI fanfiction. It's going really well so far. Pretty intense. It's the race day. It's the last chapter of the fanfic. I'm excited. But Minecraft grinding, that's fun. I love Minecraft. Shout out to the Minecrafters out there. But thank you again for the raid. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you had a good stream. So hoping it's either Will or Tommy. Okay, so Trin's got bets on Wilbur and Tommy for the win. I already know who wins, so I'll let y'all duke it out. Okay. Hazard, hazard, hazard. Soot to your right, Techno informs him. Great. Tommy rolls his eyes, pressing harder on the gas. He can't go much faster than he already is without risking a spin out at the next turn, but he's known for pushing the limits, and he absolutely refuses to let Wilbur win today. Careful. Let him pass, Phil says. It's not worth pushing your luck, especially not so early in the race. You have 100 laps left to pass him again. I could do it now, Tommy replies, and he relaxes the gas and lets Wilbur slip back into first place. He's learned his lesson in listening. The next 20 laps is passed in relative silence, save the rumble of the track and hum of Tommy's engine. Nothing much is happening, so Techno has nothing to report, and Tommy listens to Phil and doesn't push his luck so early in the race. He's pulled ahead with a single-digit amount of laps left before, so he's not too worried about falling behind. Well, he's not worried about it until Purple passes him, and Sapnap, and then George slips by, and suddenly he's wedged in the middle of the herd. During practice, it'd been him on the track with a select few others. During qualifying, it was just him. Now there's 3 cars on his right, 1 on his left, 3 in back, and 2 in front. Every single one of them is pressing in on him, and Tommy wouldn't say he's claustrophobic exactly, but the prospect of being stuck in the middle of this is anything bad, But the prospect of being stuck in the middle of this, if anything bad happens, makes his heart begin to pound. It's the feeling he'd get when his chief cornered him in an empty hallway, or when an interviewer asked him a question he didn't want to answer, but the cameras were already rolling. Cornered, confined, trapped. Keep it steady, Techno says. You're doing good. You could probably slip out on the left side if you wanted. Just let number 19 get a little further in front of you, then slide in behind him. Tommy nods, throat too dry to speak, and hopes Techno hears the rustling at least. He keeps an eye on the car to his left, Carl Jacobs, until a space starts to open up. He drifts left, beginning to take it, when number 17 pulls forward and steals it before him. Fuck, Tommy mutters, falling back into place. It's fine, Techno says, sounding utterly unfazed. The spot will open up. You'll just have to be patient. The lung-tightening feeling is back again. Tommy grips the steering wheel until his fingers turn white. He tries to keep it under control. This cockpit is his place. He's the only one who controls it. The only one capable of actually implementing the decisions made. Usually the fact is comforting. Now it freezes him in place. What if he makes the wrong decision? What if he jolts the gas on accident and slams into the car in front of him, or swerves right and hits the car there? What if he goes to pass and then it's a mistake and he can't take back, like last time? Worse, as his fingers start to tingle, he thinks about how every other car is in the exact same situation. Every other car is being steered by a person who's tasked with the same amount of decision-making as Tommy. What if they choose wrong? What if someone nudges him again, or messes up and causes an accident? What was right? Tommy thinks with a startling clarity as they hit lap 150. Everyone's a hazard, and he's the worst one of all. He's panicking. He's panicking on track, and it's going to become disastrous if he can't stop himself soon. He's going to fuck up. And he wants to do this. He really does, more than anything in the world, but he can't. He can't. There's an opening to your left. Techno's voice suddenly cuts across the comms, and Tommy flinches. He swings left, pulling into the spot Techno pointed out, and then stays there, drafting off of the person in front of him while frantically trying to calm his jittering nerves. He's shaking, literally shaking, and when he exhales, the sound is harsh and staccato. Nice work, Techno praises, oblivious. Once you hit the turn, you can probably slide around him. Everyone should thin out so the turn doesn't get congested. Okay. His voice pitches on the last syllable, but Techno must not notice, because he doesn't say anything. Tommy makes it around the turn and does what Techno says, using the draft to slingshot himself past the car in front of him. That gets him out of the pack, but the nerves inside him won't stop buzzing. He feels like an engine overheating, and the combination of nerves, heat, and stress makes his stomach twist. For a while, he holds his position there. He knows he should be fighting to get back in the top few spots. Leading the laps gives him points, after all, but he's too scared to try anything risky while his brain's all scrambled. What if he crashes? What if someone crashes into him? What if he wakes up tomorrow morning and instead of one ear being completely deaf to the blinds is rattling, it's both? He's going to disappoint his team. He's going to let them all down, and they're not going to want to work with him again, and oh God, what if he can never race again? Is that what this means? What if this panic is permanent, and he'll never be able to run a track again without feeling it? How's he supposed to race the rest of the cup? How's he supposed to race at all? He's a hazard. Tears spring up in his eyes, and even that's dangerous, because now it's harder to see the track in front of him. He makes out the blue of Wilbur's car up ahead before it starts bleeding into the gray asphalt, like watercolors, and knows he could catch him. He could press the gas down, take a risk, and catch up on the next two turns, but I'm pitting, Tommy chokes out. And he hears a rustle on the other side of comms as someone adjusts their headphones. What? Phil asks. What's wrong with the car? What do you need? Nothing. I'm pitting. Tommy? Tommy can't bring himself to answer. Pit road is coming up and he slows to an appropriate speed before turning in. It feels like giving in. It feels like failure. The paint he'd been working so hard to peel back reseals itself over his skin as he rolls down pit road and parks at his designated box. Instantly, Phil is at his window. What's wrong? What happened? Your levels look fine. What broke? Tommy holds back for approximately 2 seconds before bursting into tears. It's embarrassing, he thinks as Phil reaches inside the car and pulls his helmet off. He's crying, huge, ugly sobs that make his insides feel like they're being ripped apart, and someone is definitely filming this. It's probably going to be all over Twitter tomorrow, and he's embarrassing himself just by sitting here and letting it happen. But he can't stop. Whenever he tries to swallow it down, he chokes, and another burst of tears flood out. He can't catch his breath. Tommy? Phil asks, and he sounds panicked, but Tommy can't see enough through the tears to know if that's accurate. What's wrong? Are you hurt? What happened? He probably wants to get back on the track, but he probably wants him to get back on the track, but Tommy can't. He can't race. He loves driving. He loves the thrill of racing, but not right now. Wilbur was right. Everything around him looks like a hazard, and he's just a kid, and he can't breathe. His old chief would say he's being selfish. He'd tell him to get back out there, tears and all, because racing isn't meant to be easy. It's supposed to be difficult, physically and mentally. Every time you go out, you're facing the idea that this race may be your last. You may never wake to another sunrise. You may never stand in the ocean, or sit in a coffee shop, or call your mother again. You may never eat another blueberry scone, or make cinnamon oatmeal for breakfast, or laugh with a friend as you ruthlessly smack each other with pillows. Sometimes a race is it, and that's something you agree to when you hand over your contract. Tommy's being selfish, and he knows it, but he's scared. Tommy raises a shaking palm to his chest and grips his suit. I can't do this, he says, shaking his head. I'm sorry, Phil. Wilbur was right. My last chief was right. I'm stupid and I shouldn't be here, and Wilbur... Tommy, breathe. Phil's hand finds his shoulder. And it's not like all the hands on his shoulders before. It's not like his old chief's. But his breath stutters anyway. I'm a failure, he blurts out. It's the first time he's ever said it out loud, and it tastes like battery acid on his tongue. I fail at everything, Phil. I can't listen. I can't drive. I can't do anything good enough. I fucked up the last race we ran, and you guys are so nice. You're so nice. You gave me another chance, but I'm just gonna keep messing up. What are you talking about? Another chance? Tommy, you don't deserve that. Tommy cries. He reaches up a hand to wipe the tears streaking down his face, and for the first time, Phil comes into view. The look on his face makes Tommy's heart fall even further. He looks crushed. You deserve so much better than me, because I can't do this. I want to do this. I've been waiting my whole life to do this, but there's so many cars, and I know I shouldn't, but I can't stop thinking, what if one hits me? What if something happens and I lose more of me, and it's stupid, and I'm dumb, and I'm scared. I'm really, really scared, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He hiccups, burying his face in his hands, and waits for the anger, the scolding, the disappointment. Out of everything he's ever done, this is the most unprofessional. He's having a breakdown mid-race in his car on the side of pit road. His old chief would be furious. More than furious. Tommy would be making this up to him for months. A hand, gentle and kind, brushes through his hair. Tommy, it's okay, Phil says. You don't have to race. What? Tommy looks up, blinking back tears as Phil smiles sadly. What? You don't have to race if you don't want to, Tommy. You're shaking. I'm not going to make you go back out there if you're not ready. You'll not? Of course not. But the race, I already messed up so bad, and now I'm ruining my second chance with you guys. Aren't you mad? I could never be mad at you, Phil replies. And he says it with such conviction that Tommy's heart skips a beat. And there are no numbered chances. You're part of our team. You're our driver. You don't have to prove that to us. You don't have to prove anything to us, Tommy. Tommy, mate, how long have you thought all this? Weeks. Months? Feels like a long time. A tear trickles down the side of Tommy's face. I don't know. We would never make you prove yourself to us, Phil assures him quietly. We already know who you are. You're Tommy Innes, the rookie who slingshotted his way to the top. The one who will sit in the front of a simulation for hours, not always because he's forcing himself to be better, but because he genuinely loves racing. You're Tommy, who's so kind to everyone he meets, even when that same kindness hasn't been extended to you. You, your real laugh is loud. Your favorite color is red. And when we fly, you want the window seat, even though your legs don't fucking fit there. Tommy snorts wetly, remembering how he and Tubbo had battled for leg room on their last flight. They really should have been banned. Phil's smile widens a fraction. You had a bad wreck. An awful one, really. And instead of giving up, you said you wanted to keep trying. You wanted to get back on track. And I don't know how much of that was you wanting to prove yourself or whatever, but I know a lot of that was genuine love. You love this. I see it in your eyes every time you get in that car, and you are so incredibly brave for going after what you love, even when what you love has hurt you. You're not stupid or dumb for being scared. Anyone would be scared. But not just anyone could do this. Not just anyone could come back in 4 weeks and try even while they're scared. You tried, and you did so well. Tommy sniffles, thick and wet, and rubs his eyes again. Wilbur told me coming back so soon was stupid. He told me this would happen. I should have listened. No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't have. Tommy's head snaps up as a third familiar voice joins their conversation. Phil scoots aside and Wilbur ducks down next to his car, resting his elbows on the window as he leans in. Wilbur? Tommy blurts, mouth falling open. What are you doing here? The race is still going. I was wrong, Wilbur says, ignoring Tommy's open mouth stare. Whatever I said to you up in the stands, forget it, okay? I was projecting my own experiences onto you because I was jealous. I was jealous of how quickly you bounced back when it took me ages, of how confident you were that you could still do this, when it took me years to even consider the possibility of making it back to where I used to be. You made recovery look so easy, and I know it's not. It's not easy. But you didn't let that stop you then, and you can't let it stop you now. You can still do this. I can't, Wilbur, Tommy says, feeling the prickle of tears well up in his eyes again. I got stuck in the middle of a crowd of cars, and it scared me. I can't race like that. I'm a hazard. You're not a hazard. You're a good driver, Tommy. A really good driver. Way better than I was at 18. Kid? Wait. Oh. Okay. That's Techno, sorry. Kid? A hand falls on Wilbur's shoulder, and then he's moving aside too, and letting a third person through. God, this is becoming a one-act circus. How many more people are going to bear witness to his breakdown? Tommy slouches lower in his seat, but when the person ducks down, it's just Techno. Techno with a hand in his braid, yanking at it the way he always does when he's stressed, and eyes alight with the kind of worry that Tommy's only seen from him once, when he was in the hospital. Kid, what's going on? Techno, I can't do this, Tommy says for what feels like the 50th time. I'm going to get hit or mess up or make a mistake and have another accident and I can't. I'm scared. I want to do this, but I don't think I can. His breath hitches, on the verge of a whole new round of tears, and Techno hurries to interrupt. You want to? I mean, I want to race, but I can't without. Not race. Do you want to finish? Tommy frowns. A tear trickles down into the corner of his lips and stays there. Finish? Techno nods. No one's going to make you race if you don't want to, but if you want to finish, there are only 20 laps left. You don't even need to race, you just need to drive the track. Tommy sniffles and tilts his head curiously. Phil ducks down as well, joining Techno on the other side of his window. Techno's right. You can get out if you want, end here, but if you want to finish, all you have to do is drive. No racing, no fighting for a position. Take it slow, on your own time, and you cross that checkered line. Slow? On his own time? Tommy almost laughs at the irony in hearing those words on a racetrack. On a racetrack, everything is fast. The cars, of course, but also the crews filling gas and changing tires, the announcers spitting words a mile a minute, and Tommy's heart as it ricochets against his chest. Slow is not part of the deal. Slow is the opposite of what Phil should want. But here, as Phil softly rubs his... Take two. But here, as Phil softly rubs his shoulder, Tommy realizes he's made a mistake again. He hasn't listened. He's known for a while that this new team is different from his old one, but he hasn't trusted it. hasn't listened enough to see the truth, but it buried under all their kind actions and gentle words. Now what they've been saying all along hits him at full throttle speed. They care about him. They genuinely care, wanting the best for him even when that best is not necessarily best for them. They want him to feel safe and loved, and for the first time there are no strings attached. There are no repercussions for doing what makes him comfortable. There is nothing he will have to do later to make it up to them. They want him to be happy just because they do. Tommy exhales, and 3 months of weight falls from his shoulders. There's no catch. There's never been a catch. You should finish, Tommy. Wilbur speaks up. His brows are knit together, hair sweaty and slicked back because of how he keeps anxiously running a hand through it. It's showing off his hairline, which is quite frankly tragic, and Tommy would make fun of him if he were not a sniveling, puffy-eyed mess himself. If you want to finish, I'll guide you, Techno offers. It's up to you, Phil says softly. What do you want? When Tommy was 4, he told his mother what he wanted to be when he grew up. Race car, he babbled, running his bright red Hot Wheels off the corner of the kitchen table. It hit the floor with a clatter, and he giggled at his mom as his mom rolled her eyes fondly and bent to pick it up. I want to be a race car. 4 years later, he asked his dad to take him to the go-kart park. I want to race, Dad, for real. There's this karting place. At 10, he saw his first NASCAR race and decided his future. At 13, he watched Wilbur Soot's accident live on television, and even when his mom looked at him and said, You sure you want to race like that? He bobbed his head yes. When Sam told him he should start thinking about hearing aids in the hospital, he hadn't wanted to think about anything but racing. Hours later, when Phil asked if he still wanted to do this, he said yes, no hesitation. From the time when he was old enough to know what wanting meant, he's wanted this. And he still wants this. He's terrified, but he doesn't want to be. He wants to drive. He wants to race. And if he can't race like normal right now, he wants to do the next best thing. Sniffling back the last of his tears, Tommy nods his head. I want to finish, he said hoarsely, and everyone outside his window releases a collective breath. I want to. Yeah. Are you sure? Phil double checks. The hand on Tommy's shoulder gives a feather-light squeeze, and Tommy reaches up to grip it back. I promise, big man. I want to at least cross the finish line. Okay, Phil breathes, and Tommy can see that he's still worrying over him. But he doesn't try to stop him or change his mind. He lets go of Tommy's shoulder and swings around to face the rest of the crew. You heard him. We're getting back out there, so we're going to need gas and wheels. I'll spot you. Tell you when anyone's getting closer. Techno promises, handing Tommy back the helmet Phil had yanked off of him. Tommy smiles gratefully, and then it's just Wilbur left outside his car door.
What are you still doing here? Tommy asks. You're wasting time. There's no way you aren't already a lap down.
Oh, I am, Wilbur chuckles, but he doesn't move away from the car. It doesn't matter.
Of course it does. This is your comeback race. People are watching just to see you.
They're watching for you too, Wilbur fires back, and Tommy's hands stall on the sides of his helmet. This is our comeback race, and I had to make sure both of us were going to finish it. Tommy blinks, then takes his helmet and lifts it over his head. The plug padding squishes perfectly into place, and after he attaches it to the Hans device, he flips the visor up. I'm going to finish, he says decisively. The first racing decision he's made for himself that hasn't been made out on a track where a chief couldn't get to him.
I don't know about you, though. You might be too slow.
Wilbur laughs, and the tightening feeling around Tommy's lungs disappear entirely. He smiles, and when Wilbur reaches a hand into the cockpit, Tommy takes it. I know you're feeling better, insulting me and everything, Wilbur says.
Who else is going to keep you humble?
Wilbur's eyes glitter. Tommy Innes, you're a legend. Now go finish this thing. Tommy squeezes Wilbur's hand once more before letting go, and watching as Wilbur runs back to his own car, his chief standing outside it, one hand on the baby blue hood, the other on his hip. But he doesn't say anything to Wilbur, just pats his shoulder as he hops back into the vehicle. You've got fuel, tires, anything else? Phil asks over the comms.
Clementine? Got any diagnoses?
No, we are in park.
I thought I told Tubbo to take that feature off,
Phil exclaims, and Tommy smiles as he hears his best friend's
It's only breaking NASCAR rules if they find out
in the background.
Nothing else,
he replies, cutting off their impending squabble.
Just gotta drive.
Okay, that's it, yeah. Just cross the line. Have a lot of fun out there, okay? Trust yourself. Tommy places his hands back on the wheel, and this time, when he shifts into motion, they don't shake.
Okay.
Driving is different from racing. Where racing is all calculated moves, constant speed, and constant pressure, driving is the more relaxed version of that. There's no pressure to go faster, or to pass everyone up until you're leading the pack. There's no need to speed or calculate every second of every minute on the track. Instead, Tommy can just breathe. He lets his fingers loosen around the steering wheel and hugs the inside of a turn before veering out wide. He's so far behind it, it's not even funny. But he takes the turns careful like he's supposed to, and lets the exhilaration of being behind the wheel wrap him up and take control. How are you feeling? Phil asks as he hits straight track and pushes the gas pedal a little harder, just a little. He likes going fast, and everyone else is on the other side of the track, so there's no one to block his way. He can feel safe doing this.
Better,
Tommy replies honestly. He lets up on the gas and rounds turn 2, then straightens out.
A lot better.
Good, Phil says, and then leave it at that as Tommy continues around the track. It feels like his first practice back, when he whipped around the course all on his own. His comms had been torn out, so there was no one in his ears, just the hum of the track under his feet and the wind whipping outside his window. That's how it is now. He rounds turn 3, and hardly realizes that he's starting to press the gas again until Techno comes over the radio. They're calling a yellow, he says, and Tommy's eyes widen. Someone hit a wall up ahead, and there are bits of debris on the track.
Are they okay?
Oh yeah, just popped a tire. Watch where you're going.
Are they going to...
Tommy swallows and wet his lips.
Are they going to call a free pass?
Already did. For Wilbur. Tommy exhales a breath, and pretends the missed opportunity doesn't sting. He supposes if he'd gotten the free pass, it wouldn't matter much. Sure, it'd make up for the lap he'd lost while having a breakdown, but it wasn't like he planned on winning anymore. He might not even place higher than last place. There are only 20 laps left, and right now, he's the train's caboose. Sorry, Techno adds, as if sensing his disappointment. It was going to either be you or him, but he's closer to the front and... Wait a second, Phil interrupts, and Tommy keeps steering around the track as the comms fall silent. He can see the tail end of the crowd of cars now. If he wanted, he could easily speed up and slip back in amongst them. There's Carl's neon purple bumper and Skeppy's turquoise one glinting in the sun. They're using up the top of the track, but it'd be easy for Tommy to take the lower half and slip around. It's wide open. The question is, does he want to? There's no way he's going to lap everyone in that crowd before the race is over. So really, there'd be no point. He wouldn't be gaining any places or points. Besides, he really didn't want to get stuck again. He fidgets his hands nervously as he waits for Phil to come back. Wilbur's giving you the lap. Phil finally speaks. Tommy's mouth pops open, but he continues, rambling a mile a minute. He told his chief he's going to try and lap everyone on his own. As soon as the yellow flag's removed, he doesn't want the beneficiary.
What?
Tommy chokes out. He's going to pass all those cars and run an extra lap all on his own? There's only 20 laps left, Techno tacks on. How? Midnight Lunar Cat, thank you so much for the follow.
He could do it,
Tommy says, shifting to press the gas a little harder. He can see Wilbur's spoiler. Scintillate. Hold on. Scintillating. It's gonna kill me. I have to know what I have to know how to pronounce it.
Scintillating.
Scintillating. I know how to spell. I know how to read. Scintillating blue as he rounds turn 4 up ahead. The pacer car is already in front of them all, but Wilbur had managed to make it halfway through the pack before their positions were locked.
He set the record for the fastest lap around this track, and he's already halfway through the crowd up there. If he can make it all the way through, I know he can drive faster than any of them on this course.
But in less than 20 laps? He'd have to work his way through the field once, speed around the entire course to catch up, and then work his way back through the entire field again.
He could do it,
Tommy repeats. The edge of the pack looms closer and closer. Tommy knows he could slow down if he wanted to, but he's going to get stuck behind them with the pacer car anyway. So he keeps pressing until he's close enough to see the tiny blueberry muffin decal on Skeppy's rear, then hangs back. Not close enough for a draft, but just close enough to feel like he's not lagging completely behind anymore. Yellow flag's going down, Phil warns. Get ready for everyone to start going fast again.
Got it.
He tightens his grip around the wheel and watches Wilbur's car start to push forward. The crowd cheers as the yellow flag is lowered, shouts and applause so loud that even Tommy picks them up through his helmet's padding. He wonders if they know what Wilbur is about to do. He wonders if they know what he does. If anyone can lap the course quick enough to catch up, it's Wilbur Soot. It takes Wilbur 2 more laps to make it through the second half of the field, which has to be a record of some sort, but nobody mentions it through the comms. He pulls up behind Sapnap, who's leading, and Techno relays how he's trying to pass, but keeps getting cut off. Tommy chews on the inside of his cheek nervously as the lap number ticks from 182 to 183. 17 laps left. 17 laps for Wilbur to pass Sapnap, fly the whole track, and make his way back through the sea of cars a second time. With that sort of time, every second counts, and every second Wilbur spends stuck behind Sapnap is another second wasted. It's also Sapnap. He's trying for a slingshot, I think, Techno says, mic crackling. Sapnap keeps shifting out of the way, though, cutting the air before he can use it.
Doesn't he know Wilbur's a lap down? He's technically in last place right now, right after
me, Tommy means to say, but the word catches in his throat. Even after everything his team's told him, all their patient reassurances, it's still hard to admit he's about to lose. He'd never been so far back in position before, not since Junior League. Yeah, I'm sure he does, but he's not letting him pass regardless. He's trying again, but Sapnap's leaning into his space. He really doesn't want him to get through. Tommy sucks in a breath. This is how he'd wiped out at Auto Club. He'd been trying to pass up Sapnap, and Sapnap had been trying to intimidate him by taking up space, and he hadn't listened. What if the same thing happens to Wilbur?
He's going left.
Oh, that's Techno, sorry. He's going left again, Techno narrates, and Tommy's hands squeeze tight around the wheel. Left. Sapnap's moving to cut him off.
Oh, what do you mean, oh? What happened?
Cheering bursts through Tommy's headset as Techno's voice crackles back to life. He psyched him out and went right. Watch your tail, he's coming for you next. All the tension bleeds from Tommy's shoulders, and he laughs. Of course Wilbur made it around. He's Wilbur Soot.
He's gonna have to work pretty hard if he wants to get past me,
he says anyway. It's a joke, and you can hear the way Techno's mouth crackles into a smile. He doesn't stand a chance. Wilbur catches up within a lap. 1 second, Tommy's rear view camera is clear. The next, Wilbur's bright blue car is flashing in the background. It's the fastest Daytona lap in history, and Tommy doesn't need a Guinness World Record to confirm that for him. Wilbur pulls up beside him, and Tommy has 1 second where they're on equal footing before Wilbur pulls ahead and plunges back into the crowd. He doesn't go as fast as before, though. He pauses as he makes it in and holds there instead of continuing to pass, like he's waiting.
What's he doing?
Tommy asks, squinting at the blatant lack of cars in Wilbur's way. The back of the field is normally congested, but there's no one standing in his way right now. No one seems to have realized how quickly he'd caught up. I don't know, Techno says. Even he sounds confused. Tommy drifts left, sliding into place a few paces back from Wilbur. He can't clearly see into the cockpit, but he can make out the outline of Wilbur's helmet through the tinted glass. What is he doing? He wants you to follow him. Oh, yo, blood for the blood god. Thank you so much for the follow. I'm wearing a Techno hoodie. Yeah. And then Techno plushie. My beloved. Thank you for the follow. I hope you're having a good day, night, evening, whatever your time zone may be. Mwah. He wants you to follow him. Tommy blinks as Phil's voice suddenly erupts over the line. What? His chief is here. He's saying he wants you to follow him.
Follow him? Where? What? Why?
Tommy stammers. There's a whole field of cars in front of them. Did Wilbur somehow miss that this is exactly what he's afraid of? You don't have to. Phil says. But he's calling you a child?
Tell him he's a bitch!
Tommy automatically responds. The line goes silent for a moment. Then Phil's voice pipes back up. He says he probably earned that one.
He did.
Tommy laughs, and it's genuine.
Does he really want me to follow him? How close?
There's another pause then. Close enough that someone won't try to cut you off. He says he's not letting you finish last. He wants to keep racing you in the cup. And that can't happen if you get eliminated. But, Tommy, and this is coming from me, you don't have to do that. Eliminations don't happen for a long time. This is just the first race, and we haven't even talked about if you want to stay or pull or...
I'll follow him.
Tommy interrupts, already speeding up to get closer to Wilbur. He has to slip past Skeppy, but that's no challenge. He has to He's had practice in passing people up since he was 8, and unlike Sapnap, Skeppy doesn't play dirty for his position. Tommy can feel safe slipping around him. He slots into place behind Wilbur, so close that he really is drafting this time. Then he waits. Wilbur goes slow. There are only 15 laps left, but he takes his time picking through the crowd and keeps to the edges so Tommy doesn't get trapped. His driving has a weird sort of rhythm to it that Tommy had never noticed before. He speeds up, then slows down, and when he takes corners he starts pressing on the brake much later than Tommy's used to. He can't tell if he's being predictable because this is a track he's used to, or if he's doing it to make it easier for Tommy to follow. Whatever the reason, it makes it much easier for Wilbur to relax as he gets the hang of the groove and stays right behind Wilbur. For laps and laps they continue this way. The counter ticks upward in the middle of the track, flashing bright red numbers as they reach the 189th lap and breach into the 90s. 10 laps left. Only 10. And Tommy finally feels comfortable breathing on the track again. As they whiz around the speedway, he averts his eyes from Wilbur in front of him to look up at the stands. There, at the top, is the bright pink poster from Michael. He can just barely make out the kid's springy pink-tipped hair as he sits on someone's shoulders. There are massive noise-canceling headphones over his ears, but he's waving the sign above his head with vigor and flapping his arms as if he can hear the crowd perfectly and wants to cheer just like them. Purple had told him a week ago that there were people who were excited just to see him finish. No matter what place he's in, they'll still be cheering for him by the end of the race. Michael, with his sign, proves that there is at least one of them out there. There are 2 more in his ears, Phil and Techno. Wilbur in front of him makes 4. His old chief would never have been one of them. But Tommy, as he presses on the gas and feels the draft pull him in like a magnet, decides he doesn't particularly care what his old chief would think. Not anymore. He's got a new crew now, who are better, who are nicer. He has people that look at him and think, he's like me. People who won't be disappointed by the fact that he didn't come first because they're too busy celebrating the fact that he got back out there in the first place. He's not doing this for his old chief anymore. He's not here to try and prove himself to a man who never cared about him in the first place. In fact, he's not here to prove himself at all, not to his crew, or to Wilbur, or even himself. He doesn't need to. Not anymore. There's a group coming up, Wilbur says. Phil warns through the radio. It's sort of big. He's going to pass it, but if you're comfortable, he doesn't want you to keep following.
Okay.
There are 5 laps left, and enough cars left ahead of them that Tommy doesn't bother counting them all. Wilbur presses forward and Tommy lets him go, breaking the draft. This is it, he thinks as the lap ticks from 195 to 196. And as Wilbur starts pushing his way through the cars ahead, Amesy is amongst them. So is Purpled.
This is it,
he thinks, long after Wilbur's car has disappeared ahead and the laps have dwindled to 2.
This is it,
he thinks, as he rounds turn 4 of his final lap, and the voices of his crew team pipe up through the radio. First is Techno. Almost there, kid. Second is Tubbo.
Yeah! Bring it home, boss man!
Third, after stealing the headset back, is Phil, who says, Go on and finish this thing. Tommy can hear the smile in his tone. He presses the throttle as far down as it'll go and zips under the checkered flag to the sound of his entire team cheering.
Ah, yes, Basoyas, man.
14th. That's the place Tommy winds up taking. He follows everyone else back onto the pit road after finishing, and as soon as he pulls into his box, his crew is surrounding him, cheering and jumping as if he just placed first. It makes his eyes and nose sting with the onset of happy tears, but he'd already cried enough. He'd already cried enough that day. Mochi is canon. Thank you so much for the follow. He yanks himself out of the cockpit and stumbles right into Phil's waiting arms. I'm so proud of you, Phil says, curling Tommy into himself and squeezing impossibly tight. Tommy clutches back. You finished! You crossed the line! I did! I finished! Tommy replies with a half hysterical, mildly overwhelming giggle. Phil hugs him even tighter, and Tommy sinks into his shoulder with a sigh. It's been so long, too long, since he's had a hug like this. He thinks he needed it. Of course, the split second he thinks that, Tubbo comes tearing through the crowd to practically jump on his back, yanking him away from Phil's protective hold. Tommy laughs as his best friend clings tight and listens as he starts rambling on about how he knew Tommy could do this and that he'd absolutely demolish the competition out there. Like, seriously, Antfrost's ego will never recover. And how impressive coming in 14th place was. Techno is next. He offers Tommy a fist bump and then a hug, in which Tommy nearly suffocates because he's squeezed so tightly. He's released before the darkness can start encroaching in, though, as he scrambles for breath, Techno tells him he's the best driver he knows. It feels good. Innes! Tommy's head whips around, scanning the crowd for the familiar voice. He doesn't have to look long. Wilbur, flush-faced and curls flying in the wind, weaves his way through the sea of other racers, interviewers, and pit crews to get to him. He's got his helmet under his arm, and only one of his gloves has been removed. He must have just gotten out of his car. He comes to a stop in front of Tommy, and Tommy watches the emotions as they flit across his face. Anxiety, relief, and finally a crushing wave of guilt that sinks his entire expression. Tommy's never seen Wilbur... Tommy's never seen Wilbur look like that before. Not on TV, and certainly not in real life. Wilbur steps forward, then seems to think better of it, and holds himself back. Oh. What'd you do? Celestia, you posted a link? Whoa. That'll remove all your messages. Just don't post, links and stuff. Thanks, guys. Wilbur steps forward, then seems to think better of it and holds himself back. Tommy, he says, voice cracking. I can't. He shifts awkwardly between his feet, opening and closing his mouth as if he's going to say something, but can't quite figure out what yet. Tommy decides to figure it out for himself.
Did you place first?
Wilbur's mouth snaps shut. Mutedly, he bobs his head.
Good. I knew you would.
Tommy makes a fist. Idea to never figure out after Pierce time is here. Cool beans. Tommy makes a fist and extends it out to him. When Wilbur doesn't immediately meet it, he gives his arm a little shake. Come on, big man. Least you can do after giving me half a panic attack on the tracks is give me a fist bump. Wait. Yeah.
Come on, big man. The least you can do after giving me half a panic attack on the tracks is give me a fist bump.
Wilbur's expression melts. He raises his gloved fist to knock against Tommy's, but doesn't stop there. He pulls him in, wrapping his free arm around him and squishing him to his chest. I'm so sorry, Wilbur says over his shoulder. That was all my fault. Tommy shakes his head against Wilbur's chest.
Not your fault. It's my own brain, innit?
Yeah, but I influenced it. I shouldn't have fucking said all the things I did to you that first day. That wasn't fair of me.
It wasn't just you,
Tommy admits, pulling back from the hug to offer Wilbur a half-hearted smile.
There was a lot. A lot more than just what you told me.
Wilbur's frown deepens, but he doesn't push for more. Maybe he sees the pain in Tommy's face, the way his smile wavers ever so slightly, and decides it's better not to ask now, while they're in potential view of so many cameras. Maybe he thinks to ask would be to overstep. Maybe it's simply because the announcers have started hollering over the speakers to the crowd, and it's loud as fuck. Tommy doesn't know. Whatever the reason, Wilbur nods like what Tommy's saying makes sense and adjusts the helmet in his hold. I'm still sorry. He signs. Tommy raises a hand and signs back. Thank you. For a moment they stand there, rookie and record breaker, basking in the fervent cheering of the crowd. It's the same feeling Tommy had experienced at the hotel when he first saw Wilbur, and in the garage when he met Michael. A feeling of sameness, of understanding. He's like me, Tommy thinks, and this time he's pretty sure the feeling is mutual. Wilbur takes a step back, jutting a thumb over his shoulder to where his crew is inevitably waiting for him. I should go, he signs. Nosy reporters are going to want to interview me, get me to retell my whole sob story. Tommy rolls his eyes and Wilbur smiles. See you later? Tommy asks before he can leave. Wilbur nods. Sit by me in the group interview. I'll sign swears to you again and pay you if you say them in your answers. Tommy laughs. How much? A free meal at Five Guys? Done. I would have said them for free. Wilbur grins. Oh. Slay. I just got a reminder on my phone to bring gift cards. Wilbur grins and waves as he slips away. It's not long before he's swept up by reporters and cameramen, probably all eager to know what it was like to have to make up a full lap and to still somehow come out on top. Tommy sighs and turns back to his section of pit road. Phil's in the garage, arms gesturing wildly and face lit with a beaming smile as he speaks to one of the mechanics. Techno's sitting on a chair in the back, helping Tubbo sort through some tools and put them away. They have to clear everything out by tonight so they can hit the road tomorrow before the next race. That is, if Tommy decides to stay in the series. He wanders his way into the garage and finds a chair in the corner to sink into. He could drop out. Phil told him it was his decision, and that no one would blame him if he decided he wasn't ready for this level of competition yet. They could work their way up, start training again instead, compete in a couple of smaller races, and gradually work him back up to being comfortable around so many cars. None of them were sure if this was a one-time thing or if he'd be terrified for him, or if it'd be terrifying for him every time. But they wanted him to be comfortable. If dropping out of the cup was what that took, they were prepared for that. He doesn't want to drop out, though. He wants to keep going. He wants to race, not because he has something to prove or because he's scared of what will happen if he says he wants to stop, but because he loves it. He loves this, and he wants to keep loving it. He wants to take this thing he loves and peel all the demoralizing paint off of it until it's his own again. He wants to show people that it's possible. But if it takes dropping out to accomplish that? A hand appears in front of his face, palm up, and Tommy raises his chin to meet Tubbo's eyes. Come on, Tubbo says, grinning. I know where they're keeping the snacks. A smile slipping across Tommy's face, he takes the offered hand. If it takes dropping out to accomplish that, at least he knows he's got a team who will be by his side every step of the way. Tommy swears during the group interview, and Wilbur takes him out for dinner afterward, like he promised. They get 2 burgers, 2 fries, and Tommy insists on a milkshake. After a long argument over whether or not saying the word dick bagel in a private interview qualifies him for ice cream, he gets a medium. It's chocolate. They get it to go, and hike up the Speedway stands to eat on the top row. Oh, this is the best food I've had all day, Wilbur sighs, sinking into the chair he'd been re-signed to when Tommy stole his spot.
If you don't count the breakfast I upchucked in the bathroom this morning, this is the only food I've had all day,
Tommy says around a mouthful of french fry. And appetite gone. Tommy grins and reaches over to snag one of Wilbur's fries.
Well, if you're not hungry.
Wilbur makes a strangled, affronted noise in his throat and yanks his fries away.
Hey!
These are mine.
You just said you're not hungry.
I said my appetite was gone. There's a difference.
There's literally not.
There is.
It's not.
Wilbur shakes his head and his offered facade cracks as a huffed laugh escapes his lungs. Can't believe I went from winning Daytona 500 to arguing with a child.
I'm 18!
Wilbur bursts out laughing. The same bubbly, infectious laughter Tommy had fallen victim to 2 days ago. There we go. It echoes across the empty stands, as soon Tommy finds himself giggling along. After the laughter subsides, they sit in the quiet, watching as the sun dips lower and paints the sky a bright, vibrant tangerine. It's comfortable. It's peaceful. It's the most silence Tommy's mind has known in days. Weeks, maybe. Well, almost. There's one thing that's been bugging him since the race. A question he's been meaning to ask, but with the loudness of pit road earlier, and the interviewers afterward, and all the press Wilbur kept being dragged off to speak to, he hadn't found a chance. Wilbur, Tommy asks, and it comes out thick and funny sounding because of the milkshake still coating his tongue. Why'd you come after me? Huh? Wilbur raises an eyebrow. Ketchup-drained French fry freezing halfway to his mouth. When I pitted. Why'd you stop too? You didn't have to. Yes, I did. Why? Here, Wilbur falters for the first time. It's almost like he'd been speaking on autopilot before and had just gear shifted into manual. He pauses, genuinely thinking about his answer, and Tommy waits patiently as he lowers his fry back to the cup in his hand. I guess... I don't know. It just felt wrong to keep driving, 'cause you... Wilbur waves his hand up and down at Tommy, just like the first time they'd been up here. This time, his eyes don't stick to the single hearing aid still clipped above his left ear. You remind me of myself, sometimes. I mean, obviously, because I practically projected onto you when we were last up here, but it's like... I know how you felt. I remembered my first time being back on a track with a bunch of cars all around me and how overwhelming that was, and I just... It's a shit feeling. And I didn't want you to feel that way. Especially not because of something stupid I told you. Tommy ducks his head, taking a sip of his milkshake so he doesn't have to respond right away. Wilbur seems to take that as an invitation to keep talking, though, because he continues. You know, even I got a little nervous this race. You did? A drop of chocolate milkshake abruptly flings itself off Tommy's straw as he yanks away from it. Wilbur's mouth quirks up. A little. It's scary, you know? Wrecking makes you realize what's at stake every time you hit the track. How do you deal with that? Tommy asks. He hopes he doesn't sound like he's begging, but he is. A little bit. Wilbur shrugs. It gets easier. You gain confidence back after a while, and learn to ignore the thoughts telling you you're going to fuck it all up. Your mind heals, just like your body. It just takes a bit longer. Well, Tommy sinks back into his plastic chair and huffs. Can it heal faster? Preferably before the next cup race. Wilbur laughs and knocks their shoulders together. Tommy shoulders him back, harder, just because he can. Are you going to keep racing the series? Wilbur asks curiously. I don't know. I want to. I really do. What if I can't? What if you can? Fuck you. You sound like my 8th grade algebra teacher. Wilbur snickers again and Tommy smiles, insecurities and anxieties shrinking back down. He slurps his milkshake until the sound is hollow and empty. And then again, just to be annoying. But it's nice. It's nice to sit up here with company for once, and to not feel like he's drowning in his own head. It's nice to know that when it eventually gets late and dark and Tommy has to come down, there are people there waiting for him. There never used to be people before, or if there were, it'd never be a good thing. It meant he'd done something wrong, that there was something he needed to fix. He hadn't been good enough, and now it was time to learn why. Tommy sighs, and Wilbur nudges their knees together. What are you thinking? He asks. For a moment, Tommy hesitates. He's never told anyone but his parents about what happened with his old chief, and even then, it had to be dragged out of him over the phone while he was sat curled and crying in a dark hotel room. The reporters have all speculated, of course, and articles upon articles were released, spitting headlines like "The Wild Duo Split" and "The Rookie Racer Ditches Crew Chief." But he's never actually spoken about it with anyone. Not even with his new crew. Although they seem to have made their own assumptions about what sort of person Tommy's ex-chief had been anyway. My old chief, Tommy starts. And Wilbur's eyes widen before he settles down in his chair, promising his full attention. My old chief never would have let me relax up here. Not after the race I just ran. If I was still with him, I'd be in the mobile home right now on a simulator, running laps. He hated when I came anything but first. And even when I did place first, there was always room for improvement, which I get that, you know? There's always room to do more, be more, but he expected me to be perfect.
And I don't know how to be that.
Tommy pauses, blowing out a breath.
I know for a fact he never would have stood up for what I pulled on pit road today.
What? You mean having an anxiety attack? It sounds more important coming from Wilbur's lips. More serious. Like it was more than just something Tommy pulled. Tommy wilts under the sudden pressure of Wilbur's stare.
I mean, yeah. He would have been so mad. He used to make me run laps on foot for every mistake and practice until 3 a.m. on the simulator and lecture me on how I was just a stupid kid who was never going to amount to anything if I couldn't try harder, listen better, and...
And you stayed with him? Wilbur cuts in incredulously. Tommy's voice had been shrinking, fading off as he listed some of the punishments he used to take. He doesn't realize it until Wilbur speaks, and his voice sounds like waves crashing at the beach, loud, breaking through the quiet. Tommy shrugs and gives him the best version of a guilty smile he can muster up.
I had to now, didn't I? He told me nobody else would want me. I needed to be wanted, or at least be tolerated, because I wanted to race. You can't race without a crew chief, everyone knows that.
For a moment, it's completely silence. Whoa. It's completely silent. Wilbur sits there uncharacteristically quiet, and Tommy runs his fingers awkwardly up and down the lining of his bright red jacket. It's not his racing uniform. That's back at the motorhome, safely tucked away inside his closet. This is just his. A gift from his mom, actually, upon his acceptance into NASCAR. It's warm and soft and has his name painstakingly embroidered in gold on the right-hand sleeve. Tommy Innes. Not the rookie, not number 9, not a failure. Just Tommy Innes. Who he'd been when he was 4 and decided he wanted this for the first time, and who he still was now. Who still, despite everything, wanted to get in a car and drive. I'm sorry, Wilbur signs, circling his chest. Tommy doesn't know why he chooses to sign it. Maybe it feels better than breaking the silence, or maybe it's a force of habit. Either way, he signs back.
It's fine.
Wilbur shakes his head. It's not.
It's not.
Tommy quietly agrees.
But it's okay, because I feel now, and Techno, and Tubbo, and they let me come up here after races, and make emergency pit stops, and let me decide if I'm staying in the races or not. And they also let me exploit you for milkshakes.
He tilts his empty shake toward Wilbur, or his empty shake cup toward Wilbur, and Wilbur's nose wrinkles in a poor attempt at annoyance. You didn't exploit me. We agreed on the curse words in exchange for food, and you said them.
Wilbur, do you seriously think I said the word dick bagel during a private interview? Tubbo made it up.
You lied to me? Wilbur's mouth pops open like a goldfish's, and Tommy bursts out laughing. That's it, Wilbur said once he's finally recovered. He dramatically stabs a french fry into his ketchup packet and waves it toward Tommy, dripping red. I'm so beating you in our next race. You already beat me in this one. I'll beat you in every single one, out of spite. Tommy scowls.
You can't do that. I'm winning the next race. Or, I'm winning next time.
Lies. Did you not just see me lap the entire speedway today?
I could do that.
Uh-huh.
I could.
Child,
watch out, Wilbur Soot. I'm going to break all your records, like twigs,
Tommy says. Then he raises a B sign to his chin. Wilbur's taunting chant turns to an amused smile, and Tommy has that single second of warning before he's reaching out and ruffling Tommy's hair with a greasy, salty fry hand. It's disgusting. He can physically feel the grains of salt trickling down onto his scalp, but he smiles anyway. And when Wilbur pushes a longer strand back from where it had been hanging over his earring aid, he lets him. I have no doubt you will. You're a legend, Tommy Innes, Wilbur says fondly. Legend is a big word, Tommy thinks. He doesn't quite feel like one, but he doesn't feel like a failure either. Not anymore. That's the end of the fic, bro. That's the end of the fic. That's the end. It's over. It's done. We did it. We finished the fic. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna start crying. Guys, how am I supposed to cope? There's no more Full Throttle. That's the end. That's the end, broskies. How do you feel? That's the end. First time chatter, Lace. I did not see you come in. Laced Ivory, welcome. I know you. Cat, I need part 2. Oh, there's more. I mean, there is technically more when you think about it, because Cat has like one-shots. Hey, Witchy Worm, thank you for the stretch. Oh, time to pop my back. Hold on, I gotta pause the music. Here we go. Ooh! There's more? Yeah, there's like one shots. Oh my god, did you hear that one? Call me Snap Crackle Pop. Yeah, there's like a one shot of Wilbur watching Tommy's crash live, and then there's gonna be another one coming up, and I really want to see Phil deck Tommy's old Chief. Yeah. So that's the fic. So yeah. Cat gonna make me sob for real. I know, me too. But alas, it is my time to leave because I have to go. I gotta go to a party, guys. We're hosting. We're doing gift exchanges and things. So I'm gonna find someone to raid. I'm gonna send y'all over. Oh my god, we'll raid Athena. Hold on.
Some writing character Athena in a fic. Character.
Okay, here we go. They're in the middle of like doing stuff. Okay, nah. Okay. Join the raid. I need everyone to join the raid. I'm so glad you guys got to hang out and watch this. This was so nice. I'm glad. Okay, yeah, this is the last stream until next year. But don't worry, I'll be on YouTube, so don't forget to follow me on all the YouTubes. Thank you all so much for all the follows today. This will be up on the VODs channel this weekend. I know, I'm so sad. Last Julie stream of this year. Thank you guys for so much making it a good one. I'm glad we got to do this. Get the SBI Sunday out of the way. And then thank you guys so much for celebrating my 2-year stream anniversary the other day. That was crazy cool. I'm glad we got to do some, like, all these more little wrap-up thingies before the new year. So, without further ado, I hope you all stay safe on your break. I will be posting stuff on Twitter and Instagram, so hopefully you'll catch that. So follow me on all my socials and join the Discord. But yes, have a Merry Christmas, have a Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. And chat, remember, you are loved, you are valid, you are worthy. I love you all very, 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 very much. And I will see you all in the new year. So join the raid. Go give Athena my love. I'm going to be in chat for just a little bit before I have to head out. But have a good one, you guys. Mwah. Bye.